The throne world of Zytherion glittered like a jewel of cold suns, a fortress of chrome and crystal orbiting a dying star. To most species, stepping foot there meant death or slavery. Humanity, small and new to the galactic stage, had no right to be there at all. And yet that was where Lieutenant Mira Kane found herself, standing before the Emperor of Zytherion, accused of trespass and espionage, her wrists bound in luminous chains. Beside her crouched something monstrous. The Zytherians called it a Vornak, a war beast bred to obey their commands and crush their enemies. But to Mira, it wasn't a monster. It was Rook. 2 years earlier, during a disastrous joint operation on the moon of Thalos Thor, Mira had found the creature trapped in a Zytherian research pit, wounded and howling in pain. Against orders, she had freed it, patching its injuries with human nanofibers and feeding it by hand for weeks. Against all logic, the beast had bonded with her. When the fleet returned to Earth space, Rook followed, ignoring every alien signal that tried to call it home. Now, that loyalty was about to cost them both their lives. The Emperor lounged on a dais carved from obsidian, his scaled form cloaked in silvery armor. His voice rumbled through the great hall. "You defile what is ours, human. You stole our weapon, tainted it with your scent, and dared to bring it here. For this insult, you both shall die." Guards ringed the chamber, weapons drawn, towering Zytherians, with crystalline blades. Rook growled low, its 6 eyes glimmering with blue fire. It towered over Mira, all muscle and armor-plated hide. But it did not attack. Not yet. Mira lifted her chin. "I didn't steal him," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her gut. "He chose to stay with me." Laughter rolled through the chamber, harsh and metallic. The Emperor rose, towering twice her height. "A beast has no choice. It obeys. That is the way of power." Mira looked up at him, unflinching. "Maybe that's why you'll never understand him." The room went dead silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You mock me?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The defiance in her stare was answer enough. The Emperor turned to the guards. "End her." 4 soldiers advanced. Rook moved instantly, a blur of black and blue light. The first guard didn't even have time to scream before Rook's tail smashed him into the wall. Plasma bolts hissed through the air, but they vaporized harmlessly against Rook's armor. The beast roared, a sound that shook the pillars and cracked the crystal floor. Mira fell back as the throne room erupted into chaos. Rook tore through the guards with surgical precision, protecting her but killing only those who attacked. For every blow it struck, it moved to shield her from the crossfire, its body taking the hits meant for her. When a blade of pure energy came for her throat, Rook caught it in its jaws and crushed it into dust. The Emperor watched in astonishment. The beast was not acting like a weapon, not like something programmed or conditioned. It was thinking, choosing, loving. At last, the guards lay broken or fled. The air stank of ozone and scorched metal. Rook stood between Mira and the Emperor, bleeding from a dozen wounds but unyielding. The Emperor descended slowly from his dais. "It disobeyed its master," he murmured. "No Vornak has ever done that." Mira stepped forward, one hand on Rook's flank. "He's not your Vornak. He's Rook. He's alive. He protects me because he wants to." The Emperor's gaze lingered on her, this fragile, defiant human who stood before him like an equal, protected by the very creature his ancestors had designed to destroy. Something flickered behind his eyes. Not anger, but realization. He gestured to Rook. "Approach." The beast snarled, taking a step closer to Mira instead. The Emperor nodded slowly. "Even now, it chooses you." Strange. Rook let out a low, rumbling growl, not of threat, but of warning. The Emperor raised his hands in peace. "No harm will come to her." He turned to the assembly of nobles and generals lining the walls. "For millennia we have ruled by domination," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "We have forged life and bound it to our will. Yet this creature, forged by our hand, now rejects that will for the sake of another." He looked back at Mira. "A human." He paused, then did something no one in the hall had ever seen. He bowed, gasps rippled through the court. "To love is a power greater than fear," the Emperor said quietly. "Perhaps it is time we learned from the lesser species we thought beneath us." Mira stood stunned, the chains dissolving from her wrists as the Emperor waved his hand. "Take your guardian and go, Mira Kane of Earth. You have shown us what our empire has forgotten." Rook rumbled softly beside her, lowering its head until she could rest a trembling hand on its snout. She met the Emperor's eyes one last time. "You're wrong about one thing," she said. "We're not lesser, just different." He smiled, a slow, knowing expression that creased his ancient face. "Then perhaps different is what we need." As Mira and Rook left the hall, the great doors sealing behind them, the Zitharian nobles whispered in shock. Their emperor, the unbending star, had bowed to a human, but none dared challenge it. Outside, beneath the crimson light of the dying star, Rook limped beside her. She smiled through tears and brushed her hand over his armored hide. "You saved me again," she whispered. The beast rumbled softly, pressing its head against her shoulder. And somewhere deep in the heart of an empire built on fear, an ancient ruler watched them go, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, the future of two species had just begun with a single bow.